Welcome back to the Pause Run Play podcast. We're hyped to have you here. We're actually doing a fun recap episode of a film series that most everyone has already seen before, the Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. However, we have a guest tonight, another special guest, and Vince, I'm going to let you go ahead and do the introductions.
I don't know who this guy is. I thought you guys invited him.
What?
Someone just left the door open, so I just walked in.
Yeah, you were just out there in the front yard. Like, you had a metal detector before, and then you just eventually made it in here.
That's true.
This is my not my equal, my better when it comes to nerd stuff. Tyler, you are the expert that I go to. You are the guy who I reach out to anytime I want to talk about comic book movies. Tyler Lambert, everybody.
Wow, I'm honored. I did not expect a full introduction like that, so I hope I can live up to anything that we can talk about today.
Oh, we have deep lore questions, so you better be prepped. No, not really.
I was like, I don't.
But anyhow, we got the standard cast here. We got Josh. How you doing, man?
Doing excellent.
Vince, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Casey, how you doing, man? Great, thank you. We're all here. We're all having a good time. Josh, what have you been up to lately as far as movie-wise goes?
So you guys know I've been on my rewatch of Better Call Saul, and
Yes.
season 6 is on Netflix, which a lot of people are probably watching season 6 for the first time right now, and I'm super happy for those people, and I'm on my second time.
Is it out on anything yet?
Netflix. It just came out on Netflix, like Tuesday, I think.
God, I got too many things to catch up on.
I know. There's like so much, and so it's like don't worry, I won't push you, but I know that you're one of them who hasn't seen season 6 yet. And
No, because I was literally waiting to binge. Like,
Right.
that's how I've done all the other seasons.
And it's all there because even though they released like the first half, they did like week to week for a while, and then there was like a 4 or 5 month break or something like that because they took a break filming because Bob Odenkirk like had a heart attack and stuff like that, right? But it's all on Netflix. So the final season of Better Call Saul is there, and I've been rewatching that. I'm not super far into it, but I'm doing that. I finished from when we last recorded. I'm up to date on Yellow Jackets, and it's still great. Really
I can chime in there. I started Yellow Jackets.
Ooh.
I think I'm on episode 4.
Well, you're already like pretty far into it.
Have you guys seen Yellow Jackets?
Where can you watch it? Isn't it on
Showtime?
It's on Show-
Yeah.
you have to like subscribe to Showtime.
Well, you can do a
a
7-day free trial,
Oh, okay.
and there's one episode, or there's one season, and then now they're up to 4 episodes of the second season, but they're releasing weekly. And so I got like a free trial, and I binged the whole first of the first season, and then the first 4 episodes, whatever, during that free trial, and now I've stopped, and I can't decide if I just want to like make a ton of burner emails for each week. I mean, Showtime, I'd obviously pay for your service.
You could sponsor us, Showtime, and we
Yep.
do it anytime.
And we would watch it and put your logo on here.
It's pretty cool. It's like how is it the way they described it? Because I'm watching it. My cousin's the one who recommended it, right? So I hit him up. I was like, "This show is brutal, man. It's like Lord of the Flies." He's like, "Exactly, Lord of the Flies meets Lost." It's like, oh yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah, definitely.
It's I think the pilot's been my favorite episode so far, which surprises me because usually pilots are like, you know. I mean, I guess mostly with sitcoms, the pilots are kind of like the weakest episode. This one gets you hooked right from the get-go.
Oh, definitely. And I love that it does the back and forth as far as like timelines go.
Yeah.
Because then that can give you expectations, but then it also can do a very good job, like non-spoiler way, at like subverting your expectations later. Because obviously, like any good show was, when you have people in the past and you're wondering if they'll make it to the future, but there's a timeline in the future, like they'll be very specific about like what details they give to you, so that you like think that things in the past are going to go a certain way because you're like, I know who survives in the future or whatnot, but they try to like, you know, like any good like mind-bendy TV show would like try to do, they like kind of warp that.
Yeah, it's cool.
And so
and it's
really
awesomely cast. I don't know any of these girls. I've never seen them on anything else except for maybe the redhead. I don't remember her name.
The one who plays I want to say it's Thaisa, right? She's in Have you been keeping up on Scream? I think she's not.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were. She's in like the more recent Scream movies.
Okay,
Scream
I haven't
5
seen
and
the new
Scream
one
6,
yet.
I think.
I saw 5.
I think she's.
But
in
she's
5.
great. Maybe that's where I recognize her from. But she's good. Every one of them is good. Like I'm really enjoying the show so far.
Yeah, the one who plays I forget what her name is right now. I can't think. The one who plays like the kind of like goth one. Like.
Oh, that's who you're talking about?
No, that's not what I'm talking about. But that actress, the one who plays the teenage actress, I think she does a phenomenal job as well.
Yeah.
That was good. Anyways, Yellow Jacket's really mind-bending, really good one that I love. Better Call Saul. And then Vince and I went and saw Beau is Afraid at 8:24.
Oh boy.
Wildest.
I don't even know what to say.
Was it kind of just a wild film? Like I've heard a number of things about it. I haven't just coming from it. I love A24. I love Ari Aster. I have not watched a single preview for this movie, so I know nothing about what it is. But when I've been looking through the interwebs, people are saying a lot of things, and they're like, "Oh, this, oh, that," and I'm like, "What do I believe?" So, as to not influence anything, I left out what people are saying. But what are you guys saying? What's your thoughts?
The more that I think about it, the more I kind of like understand, because there's actually kind of a lot of love for this movie, like across the web. It has good scores, it has decent scores on Rotten Tomatoes, like 75 critics, 72 audience. But to be fair, it did just come out. I kind of expect the audience score to probably drop a little bit as it
we'll see.
kind of releases, because
We'll
we
see
saw it
when
in
the-
like a early
Yeah.
release, like a couple days before the actual release date, which is kind of today.
Tonight.
It's technically tomorrow, right? But tonight, because tonight's Thursday. And so I feel like as more people see it, and we'll just kind of be dissatisfied with the kind of like, in a non-spoiler way, like the continuity and easiness to follow of a plot line, I guess, if that makes sense.
No, I guess there's a plot line. I was going to say, or lack of a plot line.
Yeah. It's literally just about going through and experiencing these kind of crazy, I wouldn't say like psychedelic, but like surreal, and the words I always use are atmosphere, right? Ari Aster and what he can do with atmosphere. And it's really interesting because in this movie, he kind of broadens that from just like a horrific atmosphere to he has moments that are like calming atmospheres and almost like loving atmospheres and stuff like that. And the crazy, confused, horrific still atmospheres and stuff like that. And those moments where he can do that, those moments are really incredible, right? Like I still have a few different, moments from the movie that are in my mind. And I was like, the way that they did it and they set it up and the way that it felt was truly just amazing. And it was so crazy the way that he can just make you feel within a certain few minute section in a movie. My biggest, I guess, gripe was with except for like the very, very, very end, the movie is 3 hours long.
I was going to ask how long it was, because I heard it was over 3 hours.
It's about 3-ish.
It's 3 hours. And just that last...
You can feel it.
Yeah, you can tell that it's 3 hours once you're getting to the end there. And luckily, like the very, very end kind of like, does a little something different and whatnot. And so I was kind of like, I liked like
that's the thing is like every section
is like
is
its own
very
section.
different than the section before it. And so every time it's just like rebooted my interest over and over again, where it got to the point where I was just like starting to feel a little laggy here, then it would switch to a different scenario or
and that's
situation, and then it would get my attention again for a little while, and then I'd start to fall off. Yeah. It's like a roller coaster of.
And the second to last section just kind of lost my interest very quickly, and it was already 2 hours and 20 minutes into the movie. So like that before the final section was just like dragging, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I kind of went into it trying to follow a plot line and kind of be like, oh, there's going to be all these crazy things that connect and stuff like that. And there are things that connect and stuff you can find on the internet and whatnot, but just like, if you're going to go see Beau is Afraid, just like go and be ready to experience that atmosphere that he can create, right? Like you can go, like pay attention to the movie and stuff like that, but don't
try to solve
Don't overhaul your brain trying to like follow what's happening and connect the dots. Yeah. Just like let the movie happen and like experience it. You still might like it, you might not like it, but just kind of like go in with that mindset.
That was one of the reliefs that I had when it ended, because I spent the entire time trying to like figure out what was going on. And that's one of the first things that I read after I got out was this guy's review, and it says, it's important to remember Beau is Afraid is not a puzzle to be solved or a mystery to be unlocked. That's by design. Sink into it and don't try to pick it apart, and you'll get it. Get stuck on the details and you'll lose the plot. So it's basically like Josh's been saying, just go in for the ride. Don't try to solve it. And like I said, it was a relief for me because it ended. I was just like, am I an idiot? I didn't get it. Like, this went over my head. Why didn't I understand? Why couldn't I connect these events together to make a solid like message or something, you know? And then I walked out, and that's pretty much everyone's reaction is just like, what?
So is pretty much all the other Ari Aster movies have been like horror centered?
Yeah.
Is there like is it more, I've heard it's more of like a black comedy?
Yeah.
Like kind of
It's funny.
Oh, it is.
Like
It's funny.
funny versus like anything. Is there anything scary in it? Or
Yes.
is it okay?
There's that.
I wouldn't say there's anything scary. There is one scene that has the atmosphere of a horror, but it's not for very long. And
Definitely.
It
Well, and
that's all I
there's
really wanna
like,
say about it.
and there's also like horrific things that happen, I guess. Just like, I guess it might not be like too horror based where you're not like, oh, I'm in like a
It's not
dark
like Hereditary
room
where you're like,
and-
oh man, what's going on?
Yeah,
Especially the last
exactly.
30
Just
minutes
like,
of it or whatever. Okay.
yeah, no. So there's not anything that's like insanely horror driven, especially in like modern, like kind of horror expectations. Because we know Ari Aster with like Midsommar and whatnot, right? He can create horror in the brightest of settings, right? And so it's like there's scary stuff in it, but it's more just so like how you kind of feel and how you think about what's going on and whatnot.
Okay.
Nothing that's too like stuff like that. There is some stuff that can be kind of graphic, I guess.
Lots of
Yeah,
stuff.
there's lots of stuff. Oh, okay. Well, both in some violent and also sometimes sexual way. There can be
like
graphic stuff.
there's lots of stuff in the background, just like dirty language, like
Oh, yeah.
like very stuff that's gonna shock, you know, shock and awe is kind of a lot of that stuff is just like very. It was interesting. It was. I don't regret seeing it. I won't recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
Either you're going to love it or you're going to hate it. And I can't imagine it's going to make its money back. And it's the most expensive A24 movie ever made. So
Oh, yeah, because just the production on that.
yeah, it's really cool. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all goes down, like how it's received. It's got definite like cult classic written all over it, you know, for the people who love it are going to love it and are going to pick it apart. And then most people are going to be like, what the crap was that? I wasted 3 hours of my life.
Feels
I'm
like
somewhere in the middle there.
a college professor will make you watch it. And
Yeah, exactly.
what did you get out of this movie?
Please tell us. You need to write a 10-page paper on this movie, please. Tyler, what have you been watching lately? I know this is putting you on the spot.
Outside of what we were talking about today, I don't have a lot of time to watch a ton of stuff just because we have 3 kids. So for the most part, they get kind of free reign of the like the TV time usually.
All caught up on Bluey.
We are very caught up on Bluey. They're actually in so my twins are in Spanish immersion, so
cool.
they get to pick. They have to watch like a certain amount of Spanish stuff every week. So usually they pick Bluey just because it's like short and the Spanish translation is actually pretty decent for.
Nice.
Bluey
it too.
in Espanol. Huh.
Disney Plus has like every language possible. It's beautiful.
I need to hop on there and go check that out.
But personally, outside of there's a lot of stuff that I'll like watch kind of like in the background and stuff, but I did sit down and finish The Mandalorian last night, which I really liked. I feel like the last 2 episodes actually kind of like brought everything together, even though it's probably the weakest season like of the 3 so far. And I don't know. I'm curious where it goes from now because I don't know. Just in general, like I feel like without going into spoilers, I feel like the story's pretty well told. But they do kind of like hint to because they've announced like some stuff like they're doing like a movie that's going to be a Mandalorian movie with there's an Ahsoka series that is going to be out in August, and that's all going to kind of combine together. And the Dave Filoni, who like basically helped, you know, he's done like tons of Star Wars stuff, like Rebels and Clone Wars and Mandalorian and all that stuff. Like he's helping direct the movie, so it's all going to kind of combine into that. So I think that's where they're going. But there's already like a season 4, which I'm kind of interested. Like what would you do in a season 4 that I won't get out of a movie?
Yeah.
Like just like kind of fast
Did
forwarding.
they say when
doing
that one's
stuff.
coming out? The season 4?
I don't
It's got to be after like all these shows they just announced, right?
Yeah, so it's probably like at least 2 years
3
out.
years.
It took forever for season 3 to come out because I remember seeing season 2 before the pandemic happened, and then There was a really long time where there
Then we
wasn't
did Boba Fett
anything.
the next
Oh wait,
year,
that
and
was
then
2020, and then Boba Fett, and then
Mando, season
Mando.
3.
So it's been a while.
Has been a minute.
It's definitely been the most divisive, is what, just because I'm not caught up on it either. But everything, I'm on Twitter a lot, and even though I'm not caught up, I'll still see that stuff, and it's super polarized, is what I see. And then the people who are just like, yeah, it's just divisive. People are kind of on either side.
I think that's just Star Wars in general at this
True.
point in time. Like, no matter what you do, there's going to be people who either like it or hate it. Especially like with Andor's like a completely different thing.
So
you know, it's very like I like Mandalorian because it's more like kind of like the classic Star Wars, but like, you know, dialogue and stuff like that, it's not its strong suit. Andor has a little bit of like everything, and it's like very much for like a grown-up Star Wars, which I super dig. Yeah. So like trying to like, I don't know, I feel like it's hard to appease everybody.
That's kind of the fun thing about Star Wars, though, is like there is some Star Wars for everyone. Yeah. Literally, like they just announced a baby Star Wars TV show. You know?
Yeah, my kids are actually super.
Yeah, I'm so excited for my nieces to be able to watch that kind of stuff. And then there's like the mature stuff, like the Andor, and then there's just the action packed, like the Mando. Like it's just Star Wars is for everybody, and not everything's gonna appeal to everyone. So that's fine.
That's what I hope that it comes to at some point. It's just like, okay, well, I like Andor, so I'm just gonna watch Andor, and then, you know, maybe check in on Mandalorian. But people won't be like, why is this the same as Mandalorian? You know, why is the
it's
dialogue
kind of
so
nice
stiff
too,
and stuff,
like comparing it to the Marvel universe where everything kind of just feels the exact same every time. It's kind of nice that Star Wars can come out and just be like, hey, here's this. Oh, and now we're going to try something completely different over here. Now we're going to try something completely different over here. And it just kind of all wraps in together. I don't know. I'm a Star Wars shill. You guys know that.
Me too.
It's just a lot. And I love what you're talking about. Like there's going to be a little bit of something for everyone, right? I'm going to quote Forrest Gump on this. Like Star Wars is like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get, but there's something in that box for everyone. Unless you hate chocolate, then get out. No, I'm just kidding. But it's
Unless
just
you like Star Trek, then get out.
Oh,
just kidding.
Josh's family are actually Trekkies.
Are they like in
yeah.
the new? I mean, we can get it.
I guess your brother is more of a hardcore Trekkie.
Definitely
than anyone else.
so like my family, we grew up, you know, my family, my dad, and then us, because my mom not as much, but like with him. And then when we'd go visit my dad's mom in Arizona, like pretty much every single night we would watch The Next Generation and stuff like that. So then from there I went back and I watched all of Star Trek and stuff like that. I'm not really like caught up on the new stuff other than Picard.
Yeah, me either. Really.
See, I've seen like all of Picard, but I haven't seen a lot of the other series that they have going on. But I definitely do. I'm kind of more into the Star Trek universe and the Star Wars universe. But
we'll still accept you into our tribe. But anyhow.
I appreciate it.
No, that's good. That's rad. Thank you for sharing. And I wish your kids luck with learning Spanish and Bluey. And I definitely need to catch up on the Mando because I keep seeing all this fan art, and maybe it's not real, but like Grogu, is getting like armor, right? Like he's becoming a little bit of a Mandalorian. Is that fake, or is that like just like
no, it's
fan
true.
hopes?
But this brings up one of my questions for the conversation we're going to be having. I can't decide if I want to bring it up now or later because you still haven't told us. Okay, we'll just throw it in here.
All right.
Yeah.
Baby Yoda, Grogu, or Baby Groot? Who is the cuter?
Oh, cuter?
Baby Groot.
Or I guess your favorite too.
Baby Groot.
Baby Groot?
Yeah.
I'll say Baby Groot's cuter.
Yeah.
Tyler?
Oh man, you're making me choose between
You have to choose your baby.
I don't know. Maybe Baby Groot has more of an attitude, especially. I mean, we'll get into it, but
Except
like Baby Yoda. I mean, Baby Yoda does have a little bit of an attitude, especially near the end of this last season too. But I don't like Baby Groot was kind of like the OG too, if you think about it. Like before it was Baby Yoda, and you found out what his name was and everything, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's so cute." Well, it was Baby Groot that kind of like took everybody,
the world by storm,
basically.
You guys are all wrong. Baby Yoda's better.
That's fine, Vince. We'll let you sit in your corner of Baby Yoda.
Who went in a dance off? Baby Yoda or Baby Groot? Go.
But what I love though, and I think
this is the Baby Groot, the baby show. Sorry, I keep
the
cutting.
baby battle.
What are you saying?
But what I was gonna say is like, if I were to vote for Baby Yoda, it would be because he like eats the little like in the first.
Dude,
like,
he eats everything.
He eats everything.
yeah,
It's awesome.
He just eats like
it's so funny. It's a running joke.
This is whatever spoiler for season 3. He learns how to like levitate like jelly beans or something, space jelly beans to himself and stuff. He does whatever he wants pretty much.
He's just like oh gosh, what's his name from we just talked about John Wick, the one who's just always eating. Kane?
Is he always eating?
Yeah, well, he's eating the ramen. Like he just has something to eat all the time, and I think that's funny. I don't know.
Sorry, I derailed the conversation. What have you been watching?
My wife has been rewatching the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has been a lot of fun because I realized I've forgotten so much.
Yeah, that's got to be way fun. That's the one thing I've learned about this movie is I miss these old movies.
Well, that was something that was really interesting is I was like, I've forgotten so much, and yet I'm excited to rewatch it because of how much I've forgotten. So it's like what's been fun about it. But like, I will say this, you hit the nail on the head a little bit earlier, is it's become mush because a lot of it's the same. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to like say that Marvel sucks or anything like that, because they don't. They know what they're doing. They have a multi-billion-dollar machine going, but it's just kind of like I realized it's like a lot of this is the same. I did love like Captain America: Civil War. Loved it more than I ever thought I would.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, been watching that.
Where are you at in this?
We actually just finished Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Okay, so you actually are like...
Yeah, we're like, that's where we're at right now. Is we just
this worked out perfect then.
Yeah, it was actually hilarious because what's funny is I walked in one day, I'd been doing something outside, and I'd been out with the dogs for a while, and I came in and my wife was like 3/4 of the way finished with Guardians of the Galaxy 1, and so I just sat down and watched the last of it, and that was like a ton of fun. I was like, great, and then we've watched a bunch of stuff in between, and then we're like, oh, here we are. Also rewatching Doctor Strange. Oh man, that's a trip and a half. We took my brother. I'm gonna shame him forever. We took my youngest brother to watch Doctor Strange in the theater, in the one nearest to the town you grew up in, just that twin theater there. Uh-huh. And straight up, he fell asleep and snored so loudly in Doctor Strange that people were telling him to shh and like wake that kid up and stuff like this. Like it's so funny. And I remember just being like, dude, you can't sleep in a movie. And he's like, I'm just so tired.
You're a farm boy. You've been up since dawn working, right?
Pretty much. But I was like, come on, dude.
I had a friend that I lived with for a while that we used to see midnight showings all the time, and he would always fall asleep every single time.
For real?
The funniest thing.
See, I've fallen asleep in a couple movies before, but like I'm paid for this, so I'll like get like caffeined up.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm ready.
Josh saw me the other night with my giant bucket of popcorn that I ate all by myself to stay awake through this 3-hour movie.
You did offer me the popcorn multiple times, and I really, really appreciate it. But I had already eaten a couple things that day that I definitely like probably shouldn't have, since I've like tried to lose weight, and I was just like, I can't. I want to so bad. It smelled good, but I was like, I have to resist.
Dude, that's awesome.
Vince has a secret sauce in theater popcorn though. You like do like the first half.
I used to do that. I don't do it anymore.
What?
Their kettle corn hasn't been as good lately. It's been like, yeah, not great. So I stopped doing it.
Oh, well.
But it is on a good night. Do that. Try that. Half kettle, half regular. Kettle in the bottom, so it's like a dessert.
He leveled up. I hate popcorn. I was like, this is good.
It's like that salty sweet. Salty sweet.
Salty sweet. Salty sweet.
Bro, not to like get too far off track, but you were mentioning Doctor Strange. Because I'll kind of talk about this later about like kind of dual actors or people doing dual characters, whatever, in the MCU.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Benedict Cumberbatch voiced Dormammu in the original Doctor Strange.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's like crazy. I just learned that today when I was looking up stuff about Guardians and other stuff for the podcast. I was like, what in the world?
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
Yeah. They just bargain with each other, I guess.
Yeah.
Bargain with yourself.
Anyhow, let's get on to our actual movies we're here to talk about tonight. Anything you guys want to start on Guardians of the Galaxy? Just to really call this out, Guardians of the Galaxy, I think this is all the movie now. We don't have to declare spoilers, but I will anyways. This is going to be a spoiler heavy film talk review, whatever you want to call it.
For both Guardians 1 and 2.
For both of them. But like what's really crazy to me, and I just want to call this out really quickly. I remember I was big into Parks and Rec, and I'm leaning over to Josh because we like love that series. And I remember like when Chris Pratt Chris Pratt, he left for a little while off the show, and then he comes back and he's like, they're like, how'd you lose so much weight? He's like, oh, I stopped drinking beer. Like that was the whole.
He's like, and you lost 50
that.
pounds?
Yeah.
He was like,
how much beer were you drinking?
So different from the like physical comedy that he had before. Like he did Guardians, and then all of a sudden he's just like super.
Well, because
jacked up.
they didn't necessarily like take him off the show. They definitely like the first half of one of the seasons, I think he was in like 2 episodes because he was like in England. But in the very first episode of that season, he was there when he was just all of a sudden like so fit and stuff. And that's where he was just talking with Ben. He was like, "So you lost 50 pounds, how?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just stopped drinking beer, man." He's like, "How much beer were you drinking?"
I think about it like also another thing, one shelf. Like that's like imagining like the other Parks and Rec thing, like one shelf. But like that was what was crazy is like Chris Pratt goes from like this kind of like bubbly chubby dude to like freaking Chris Pratt. Hello. And it was like something like people like, dang, what happened? So get cast in a Marvel movie, you definitely will hit your fitness goals.
Look at Kumail Nanjiani too.
Oh my
He went through the same glow up, man. These Marvel movies, and the kid who's playing Golden Face, Adam Warlock, dude.
Yeah.
That's The Office.
That's what it
you
looks
made that
like,
reference
bro.
a while back.
Oh yeah, I did. I remember.
But he's like, you went from little shrimpy, like I don't remember his name, but now he's just like
Will Poulter.
Will Poulter,
Yes.
man, he's looking good. Like these Marvel movies transform people, and that's one of the funny things. You guys have to tell me if this is because I can't remember in the more recent movies. In these old ones, I very vividly remember, and this reminded me 100% how they always have a shirt off, like. Check out how good these guys look. Look at these muscles shots in every one of these older movies. Do they still do that in the newer ones, or is that just like a running thing from the old ones?
I mean, I wouldn't doubt that they would do something like that, but I'm trying to think of like the newer ones, and they definitely.
Was Scott Lang? Did he have his shirt off when he was in the quantum realm? I don't remember. No. Jonathan Majors, wasn't he? Did he have his shirt off? I thought he did.
He probably did.
Maybe.
I mean, that guy is freaking
Is
huge.
there-
If they didn't,
I
that would have been
mean,
a waste.
Is there a website called Shirts Off?
Oh, there's gotta
movies?
be.
Like where I can just look and see what actors have had their shirts
Be
off. in
careful what
movies.
you search.
Yeah, that's why I'm not. I have a tab
Specific
open
with what
here.
you're looking.
I was like, maybe I'll just type up what Marvel movies have shirtless sections. I was like, it's gonna pull up something not great. So
nude Marvel scenes?
That's exactly what I want to look up.
But yeah, that actually caught me off guard. Was that the first Guardians that Chris Pratt has his shirt off? Because as soon as that happened, I was like, why is he doing that? This seems very weird. But
Just
I'm
like
pretty
the
sure it's just
prison
like the
scene.
Thor. You know, there's always a Thor scene where he doesn't have a shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was definitely, I don't know.
this
there was an
scene
era
right
of
here.
that
This is what you're
happening.
talking about.
Yeah, it's
There
right
it is.
after he
There
gets
it is.
sprayed off in the
Yeah.
jail cell, and he just has that one like glory shot where it's just like,
Right.
look at this transformation.
Because there's like him getting sprayed off, and you can like understand it or whatever. But then like right after that's done, no one's doing anything, and it's just him dripping wet, just you
So
know.
funny.
That broody look. No, I mean, that's what's crazy is there's like something that's got to be called like the Marvel effect. You get cast in a Marvel movie, like it's kind of like that disappear for 30 days and come back. It's like get cast in a Marvel movie, boom, you're super
Look at me
jacked
now.
in the best shape of your life. And I think that's really fascinating because I don't know, and this is maybe other people know more people than I do, like actors than I do, but I'm always surprised at like where they pull some of these actors from. Like they're not trying to like diss on Paul Rudd or anything like that, but Paul Rudd had a long movie career and he's like been a heartthrob for a lot of people, but he's not really been in like, he's always in like Love You Man or like Our Idiot Brother or just something that's like
Friends.
Yeah, like good but not outstanding. And here he comes into this. He's like boom, same with like Chris Pratt, same with like a number of people, and you're like,
And for this movie specifically, like credit to James Gunn, man. The guy knows how to cast a movie. He took all these guys that nobody would have thought of. Maybe, I mean, Bautista, I guess people would have thought of. But like Bautista, this is his breakout movie right here, all thanks to James Gunn. I can't remember. I should have researched it a little more. But do you know a little bit about that? Like how Bautista was trying to get into the movie industry but couldn't and was like not doing very well in the WWE or not making money or something.
I remember hearing he did really well in like wrestling and stuff,
Okay.
and then I think he went basically broke, is what he was saying in some
Yeah.
interviews and stuff. So really, like Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of like his like safety. I don't know what the like safety
like rebirth type
yeah,
thing?
basically like it's saved, like kind of saved his career, and since then like it's basically like he credits like James Gunn and everything for getting him like into like all the roles and stuff that he does now.
100% it's thanks to him. Yeah, and same with Chris Pratt. He transformed him into somebody completely new. I looked up, it's on my other It's on my phone again over there. A reason to film. But I took some screenshots of like casting considerations, and like all the other people that they considered for this role looked a lot more already like superheroes, you know, a lot more like not pudgy funny Chris Pratt. And all of a sudden Chris Pratt comes walking in overweight and just cracks up James Gunn, and James Gunn was like, I think I read that in the first like 30 seconds he's like, yeah, this is going to be my Star-Lord.
Yeah, so a few other names on there were like Joel Edgerton, Eddie Redmayne,
the Golden God himself, Glenn Howerton, was like runner up for the role. He plays Dennis in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He almost got it. That could have been game changer for him. It never would have been the same though. Like Chris Pratt is Star-Lord. Like there's not a better Star-Lord. Even in that video game that I love, it's still just
even then, like when I feel like when I was watching these movies, I was like, the video game, I was like, oh, that's pretty much like how I would imagine like Star-Lord in that video game too. Like it's like the same. Like he plays it so perfectly. Oh wow, what?
Aaron Paul almost was there.
Oh man, that could have been interesting.
Eddie Redmayne.
I don't know.
There's
about
a lot.
him.
Well, and when we're talking about casting, I just kind of want to bring up one of the things that stood out to me that I wanted to talk about with these movies is the chemistry of these characters for the Guardians and how they can play off each other both emotionally and mostly hilariously is just what makes these movies so good. This one and in the second one, I feel like the first one maybe was a little bit better chemistry-wise, but they're both like up there, and that's what I'm really hoping that we get back to in the third, because ever since then, anything that the Guardians has been, it just hasn't been the same. They haven't like had that same chemistry, like even if it's
they haven't
funny,
really been together, right? Like for the most part, they've been separated, especially in like the. I was thinking about it, like I was trying to remember, like Infinity War and Endgame, like they're barely in Endgame, and in Infinity War it was
mostly
separated, right?
Gamora and Peter's.
That was like their main story. So
yeah, exactly. And so you haven't had them all together and everything like that. And rewatching these movies, just listening to this group of people just be absolutely hilarious with each other. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie, was just how well they cast these characters and how well they did all of this together. It was just like, I was like, yes, like among other things, like this is why I loved these movies, because this like little ensemble cast just that is perfect.
Like that says a lot about the casting, but also about the characters themselves and the way that they're written. Like I don't know how they did it, but the Guardians of the Galaxy have become like some of my all-time favorite comic book characters, and I haven't read a single one of their comics, but their movies are amazing. The characters themselves are so entertaining. I listened to a podcast called it's a story podcast, and it's fantastic. And it's about Rocket and Peter, but they're old. It's like way in the future. Half the Guardians are dead. The world's kind of gone to crap. And these characters are written exactly like they're written in this show, where just like Rocket is the wisecracking, mean, kind of like antisocial raccoon that he is in these stories. Peter Quill is like the funny, like, again, wisecracking. They just butt heads, and they're just, and in the video game that got released on the PlayStation and everything a little while back, like these characters are very consistent and very entertaining and very lovable.
I think like for me, like when I was rewatching these, right, I was kind of like looking at, I was like, what? Like, so, and this is going to the first one to near the end of the show, right, is when they're doing like the dance off, when Peter's like, okay, we have to like do the dance off and stuff like that, and just kind of how stiff they all kind of like start and how they all kind of get it. And that's kind of like, I feel like the whole thing is like, Peter's that kind of like if we were like sitting here talking about it, he's kind of like that, if you're at a party event or something like that, he's like the kind of goes with the flow, kind of like has a good time, and everyone else just kind of is like, we're here, but we're not quite ready to get into the thing, and he just gets them all going. And I thought it was way fun, and like the way that they play against like the good guys, the bad guys, the literalness of like Bautista's character, like them all figuring out like sarcasm, all these different things throughout the series. I'm like, this is how I wish that more, like, it's fun to have like a movie where there's just like a solo character in the lead, but when there's an ensemble like this, you're like, I want more of that. I want that. That's what I want. I want friends. I want people to be together doing things, even if they're weird, even if they don't match.
I am famously on record for not liking Drax in this series.
You are.
I remember I heard this podcast. There was the holiday, or was it the Christmas special? I remember listening to that one and hearing all about that.
I have Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say, and because of that, I was watching for like, would Vince like this? Wouldn't Vince like this?
What did you think?
I think that you would like him very much in the first one, a medium amount in the second one, and then it drops off.
I would even say in the second one, it's from the get-go, he's a joke. The very first moment
There's like
he shows
one
up,
scene
he's a joke. There's
I
one
don't
scene
know.
with him
Yeah,
and Mantis.
with Mantis.
I thought that one scene was pretty decent. I feel like he didn't really get. I mean, when you go into further movies, that's when it gets like more like he's just kind of like the comic
He's literally
relief,
the
basically.
running joke of the series. I loved him in the first one.
He was really good in the
loved
first
him
one.
in the first one. He's got depth. He's got emotion. He's not doing that over-the-top fake laugh all the time. He's got so much going in that one. And then just immediately in the second one, they just flip the script. And all of a sudden, he's just like, I don't understand anything. I'm just here to crack a joke every 5 minutes. And then he has the one moment and then right back to cracking his jokes again. I feel like it's such a waste.
So is that because
Character. I
Ronan's
love
gone
Drax.
and that like his purpose, like in the first movie, his purpose is to get Ronan and kill him, and then second movie he's gone,
He
right?
just doesn't like care about his family anymore. It seems. Besides like that one scene, and obviously it's like at some point you have to move on. But it's just like he has no depth of emotionality at all.
Nothing.
I'm curious if that'll happen. Like, I'm curious if because it was an interesting interview with Dave Bautista. I don't Bautista.
yeah.
I call him by his wrestling name, Bautista. But anyway, he was
should have
mentioning
Michael
how
here, too.
he like wouldn't do another movie after this because he feels like the character arc is complete. So that makes me think that there's going to be something for him specifically in this.
I hope so.
Because
Me too.
yeah, because I mean that was the thing. I kind of in agreement. Like I feel like the first movie he had way more depth. The second one he was definitely like the nipple jokes were. I kind of rolled my eyes. Like there were some pretty funny. I mean, there were some really funny moments with him, and then I did really like that part with Mantis, and like made me wonder, like, oh, could be like maybe he's having PT, like like the one guy that he wanted to kill died, and so now it's like, what is he? What is
It's
he?
like purposeless.
Yeah,
just
is he-
kind of like
what's his
floating.
purpose?
What's
so
what's
it's
the
kind of-
timeline between the first and the second movie? Sorry, that was an interjection. I don't know the
Seems
time.
pretty quick, right?
Yeah,
Because they
it's-
keep referencing the first movie a lot.
But they do have quite a bit of time together too, because they reference a lot. Like all this time we've been doing this together, and they've like made themselves known throughout the galaxy and the Nova Corps. Everyone knows who they are. I don't know. It's
The first one came out in 2014, 2017. Not that
2017,
really
2017.
matters, like,
Yeah.
the timeline, but
I think I read that it's like 19 years after Captain Marvel or something. It was one of
Only
those, like,
really?
random
Only
trivia
takes place
things.
a few months after the first movie.
oh,
that's
really?
it?
Okay. There is a reference where Rocket's
Just
like
3 months.
we're
Yeah.
saving the galaxy this second time. Like, okay, so they've done like jobs and stuff, but this is their second time like saving.
Actually going crazy.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, and it's such a quick flip and turnaround, and so who knows? Maybe Vince, it's okay that you don't like Drax for that
it's-
much of the
it's
thing,
fine.
and
A lot of people
that's
like him.
just fine, right? But I think what's really interesting is if we're talking, and I think we're kind of blending the movies as we go here, and I think that's just fine because it's our podcast, right? But I think what's really fascinating is if we're going into the first movie, and I want to talk about this, is we first meet Drax. He's locked up in prison, right? And he's just this big tough guy. And he's Drax the Destroyer. I think they like label him as that, and like you're like oof. And then the second one, you're kind of seeing him after having done all he's done with them, during that time. And when you talk about the Mantis scene, right? I think about the scene where him and Mantis are sitting like on the steps and she touches him and she feels all of his sadness and all of his pain. And she's like, that is intense, like type thing. And I think that's very fascinating, like knowing that maybe he is in a mourning period. Maybe he is in this thing where he's like, I've lived out my purpose, and talking about like the stupid stuff from the second movie. And I agree, there's some real dumb stuff with Drax. Like when he's like, the skin on the outside is too hard to pierce, so I'll pop inside of it. And like that scene is cool where he's like leaping into the mouth of the monster and he's going off, and it's like, I just
He
keep
does
laughing.
have funny moments. Like I remember,
Yeah.
I don't remember which one it is, but the one where he's like, you can't see me, I'm immovable. I can't remember
Was that
Right.
that was in
Avengers
the
or what.
Endgame, I think. Wasn't
Yeah, I
it?
think
it was in
that's-
one of the Avengers movies.
Yeah, I think
that
so.
one was really good.
He's got his moments, but just overall, he's just a little much for me.
Yeah,
Just
I
a
get it.
little. He's playing it at a 10, and I'm just like, bring it down just a little bit. Like,
I'm curious, like for everybody. So just dividing out the movies specifically, like what did you guys think about for the first movie? What did you guys think about the villain for it? Because for me, watching it again after watching like so many movies and stuff like that, I was like, man, this Ronan is just like kind of like a nothing like character, and kind of like even the whole plot of the first movie, like outside of the Guardians and like seeing the chemistry, you're like, it's literally just like they're chasing like an orb or
Real
basically
Maltese Falcon Ark of the Covenant.
yeah, basically
that what he
just
says?
carrying,
Yeah.
just chasing chasing an
A
orb,
MacGuffin.
and they don't know what it is till like the very, very, very end. And even then, it feels like they don't quite know. It was a little all over the place in terms of just like the villain and kind of what like the motivation was for Ronan specifically.
When I first watched it, Ronan seemed like a big deal because I was like, oh man, he's this guy who's gone rogue and he wants to destroy all these people and stuff like that. And he's so powerful. But like now watching it, it was literally just someone who Thanos was like, he was working with him. And then he's like, I'm going to go against you, Thanos. And Thanos like literally didn't even care. And he died. And Thanos was like, yep, I knew that was going to happen. Like, it was just like so strange to watch after. Because, yeah, I really think that when I first watched it, oh, my gosh. Because I knew, like, who he was, but I didn't put he's in Bodies, one of my favorite movies
so it's
from
Lee
last
Pace
year.
who plays Ronan. And what's crazy, like, I just want to talk about this, is where we were in the universe at the time, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he shows up and you're like, oh, this guy's a big baddie. Like, that's how I felt, at least. I remember feeling like he's going to be crazy, and he has that big freaking hammer type thing, and he, like, slaps the Infinity Stone on there, whatever, and you're like, woo! And now that we've seen, like, Thanos, now that we've seen other big baddies, I'd even say almost Dormammu is scarier than, like, Ronan in a way to me. And Dormammu is the worst CGI in my opinion. But that's another story for another day.
The rainbow monster.
Yeah, woo! But anyhow, like, I think what was cool about Ronan is that he's this kind of like, if we're talking like bad boys on the street type thing, he's like a middle ground crook. Like, he's kind of established a name for himself, and he's done some terrible stuff because he's the one who killed off like Drax's family and all of this type of stuff. But he just was kind of a little too stiff for me. Like, maybe that's a cultural thing that they designed for his people or whatever. But I was like, this guy's a little stale of a Triscuit, if you ask me. Like, he just didn't have that much. Like, the zest is gone, the delight, the expectation.
Just terrible. Bro.
Yeah, that's what I was like. But like, I think the actor did good with what he was given, but I wish that he definitely could have been a bigger baddie.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with a lot of those beginning Marvel movies too, is that they very much were like focused on heroes and not really the villain's story. So it's kind of like, because if you actually read like a little bit about Ronan in the comics, and I think me and Vince have talked about this before, he actually has like, there's actually some legitimate reasons why he's like a bad guy, but for the most part in the movie, basically they're kind of just like, oh, he's a terrorist, and there's like, what is the quote? Like, he's like, he's killing children. Like, when you in a movie, when someone's killing children, that's like automatic. Oh, this guy's irredeemable. We're not even gonna try to root for this guy.
I mean, they pull the exact same thing for the second one too. We deal in child trafficking. Oh, we can kill everyone now.
Yeah,
No, it's fine.
I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring. I actually really, really like Ronan. I know he's very simple. There's not a lot to him. It's a little bit like convenient, a villain out of convenience, but I thought he was played very threateningly. I think his look is awesome.
it is really good.
Like, he's just that black around his face and his mask, and he's
And
just
his
like
eyes.
and the way he holds himself too. There's a scene where he's like crouching down. It's just, he's just very like menacing and just like a presence to be reckoned with. He does get killed off. I mean, he's like no threat to Thanos or whatever, these big bads, but I feel like he was perfect for the movie that this was, where it's like already so full. You have to introduce 5 characters. How many are in the Guardians? You have to introduce 5 different characters or however many, and make you love every single one of them, and throw in a big villain into it, and have these like big action sequences. Like, there's a lot to do with it. And for what he was, I thought he was great.
Well, I hate to like have been like, oh, he's a stale Triscuit, right? And that's a bad, like, it was fun. Like, I have to put myself back into 2014 Casey, right? And like, this was cool. And what's crazy is when you're talking about that, right? Think about like this movie, we're being introduced to Star-Lord. We're being introduced, like you said, to all these other characters. So we have this tree branching off, and like, how can you care so much about so many different characters? So with what he did, I would say he did a good job, and I liked it. But now that I've seen so much else, I'm kind of like, he fell flat. But you're like, there wasn't much to him. You're right, and I liked him for that.
I kind of
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't pine for it. Like I'd much rather have characters with depth, but every once in a while it's okay for me to be like, we just need a bad guy to move this story along so we can focus on the main characters. And I kind of feel like that's what this was, is like we just needed something to kind of bring the guys together that doesn't feel, I don't know, maybe it does for some people, feels a little short, but I don't know.
And I mean,
I think it went well.
When you get into a cinematic universe, right, it's really tough to make every movie seem high stakes.
Maybe
right?
that's what it is.
Like,
yeah.
it's like they know that they have to make this villain seem like like he's going to end everything or whatnot, while still having to be like, okay, we need to be able to ramp it up once we get to Avengers and Avengers.
Which makes it weird when you know who Thanos is and you see him in this movie and you're like, kind of like, you know that he's going to be a bigger deal.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes away your attention from Ronan. You're just kind of like, well, but Thanos is going to like be way more.
But Thanos is still there, bro.
So as someone who had no idea who the freak Thanos was, that was just I was just weird to me. I had no idea who he was. They're referencing Thanos, right? And it's like they have him there, and I'm kind of like, okay, what is he? What does he do?
He was no Kurt Russell.
Oh man, yeah, Kurt Russell. I mean, talking about just mentioning villains, like I feel like if you try to put Ego in the first movie with everything, like it would definitely feel over stuff. So I feel like you have to have him be like have his own movie where he's kind of because he's such a big character, especially in that second movie. I feel like, especially I don't know. I feel like Kurt Russell just acted the crap out of that role in a lot of different ways.
His spaceship, like his whole thing, like the design of his world, so cool. And I have to highlight that. And I like the way that like when he's portraying and telling the story about like his I was here and I appeared and then I went out in the universe searching for ways to plant seeds with my river lily, whatever. I don't remember the whole details, but like when they're walking through that room and the TV screen is kind of changing.
Those like egg-looking things?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
like,
that was way cool.
it
And
had
it
like
has,
the
like, this
vibe of like the 70s,
Yeah,
right?
it's awesome.
Or like the Jetsons kind of was what I thought too. I was like, this is pretty rad.
And it kind of works too because if you think about it, he probably doesn't know much about Earth after he left, whenever like in the 80s or whenever he left.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why he would try to connect that, especially with Peter.
Well, that, and not only just that he knew it from that time frame, but also from the point of view of a child, right?
Yep.
The education of a child, because it gets to that point where he's like, I'm not from Earth, I'm from Missouri or something like that. And he's like, dude, it's on
He's
Earth.
from Terran. That's what a weird thing, though. I've never actually thought about this. So if you think about Peter Quill really quickly, his like education and his context of life goes from whenever he left, which I think he was like 8 or 9, right? And then after that, he's just with freaking Yondu and the Ravagers and just doing stuff that way. So like imagine your childhood,
Just clinging on to that.
boom, and then space. And what a strange thing to be like, I come from Missouri, but then you have the whole entire universe unlocked to you. And also like really quickly, I know this is different things that you might know this better than I do. He has like an implant so he can understand all languages and stuff like that. They talk about it in the first movie.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, so like when they do the screen of who he is, right, and they're showing like Peter Quill, Star-Lord, whatever, like it shows what he has, kind of like some of his like upgrades or features or whatever you want to call it. And so like Rocket Raccoon, it talks about. So each of them in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, it kind of like shows kind of their skills. It reminds me of like Dragon Ball Z when they have the scanner and they're like, the power level's over 9,000. Like that's what I felt like when they're showing that off. But like really interesting, like that Yondu got him and then gave him like some upgrades.
Like
really
a translator. I loved the way they introduced all the characters, like in that lineup from the first movie. I remember they used that a lot for the trailers too.
Oh, yeah.
When they were marketing it.
Doesn't it feel like after that, like a ton of not even just comic book movies, but a lot of movies tried to like do kind of like that similar stuff?
I think so. Yeah.
Didn't this movie kind of set the overall tone and feel of the extended MCU from
I
here
think
on
so.
out?
So I was thinking when we were talking earlier, I'm pretty sure this is the first one that actually like talk about like space and like like
it's the first one that's
all
just
that
beyond
technology.
those Avengers.
Yeah,
right?
like they're
Just the
not on
main-
Earth at all, basically.
Yeah.
Well, and then
except for
on-
the flashbacks.
Well, I mean, on top of that too, is just like every Marvel movie since has been full of these just like action joke, drama joke. It's just like they've found their pace, they found what people like, and I think this is the first one that really figured it out.
out the
Like James
formula.
Gunn was like, "Oh, here it is," and then all the rest of them have kind of been just like a
It's the still like an artist
rip
thing,
off of
right?
that, but
like
a riff on it.
Yeah, they've just kind of like,
Yeah, exactly.
this worked.
This
We're gonna
works.
try and put our own spin on it to make it similar.
But nobody does it like James Gunn. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the second one is a little over the top James Gunn, but
Do you think the third
In the amount
one's
they
going to
do it.
continue that trend though? That's
I don't know,
actually
that's what I
my
wanna see.
concern.
Yeah, I could totally see that. But like at the same time, it makes you. I don't know, man. I'm so because it's obviously like, James Gunn's leaving Marvel to help
the DC
manage
stuff.
DC stuff, and so it's like, well, like how does he go out with like this third one? And like I feel like I'm sure it's going to be very James Gunn and with like jokes and stuff like that. Like even with the clips that I've seen of it, like it does feel that way. But I'm hoping that it's very much like going back to the Drax stuff where he's kind of like been more of a joke and stuff. Like I hope it's kind of an overarching, more like an emotional. Because I mean, there's definitely emotional beats in the second one for sure. Honestly, when I was watching them back to back, I was like, man, the second one's. I enjoyed the second one so much. Outside, my only critique is like if you could shave off like 5 minutes of maybe some jokes and stuff, in it, like it would be even like better.
I'm right there with you. I feel like there's more heart in the second one. I think I like the first one better, but I felt like watching the second one, there was a lot more heart between them all. There's a lot more, just emotion. I didn't remember so much action in the first one. Like there is so much action in the first one.
The whole prison break scene, and that was so cool. Like the fighting the robots and stuff like that. That I don't know. Like going into that stuff, like I feel like that is so unique compared to like, there's like so many. I feel like there's so many things that try to be like Star Wars, basically. And it's
maybe that's why I love it.
But I feel like it's Star Wars, but it's like they're trying to do it like a different way.
Yeah.
It's like instead of like fighting all these like guards and stuff, they're fighting these robots that have guns on them. And then even in the second one, like that ship that Yondu has, like it's not like it has like lasers on it. It has like those little ball things that kind of go and make like a big laser beam and stuff like that. Like it doesn't, like he tries to do something like a different spin on what you kind of expect from like a space movie. It's like, okay, we'll have lasers, but it's going to be a different way that it's kind of working.
Or like the way they travel through space. Like they have light speed, but it's not really light speed. It's like
700
jump
jumps.
points.
Yeah, jump points. It's cool.
And that's like
Clip
another
that
one
for
me.
YouTube.
And that's like another one where I was like, maybe the second one was a little too like. It's not that they did it right, but they like went back to them like 3 different times.
Yeah, exactly.
What an interesting call though. Like the way they travel through space. I like how not everyone does it the same. Like there's so many different ways you can travel through space and however they want to do it. I love these jumps though. It kind of reminded me that they're just portals is all it is. It's like there's a slip space, it's like Stargate type thing. Like here's entrance, here's exit. You can go through here. Okay, 700 jumps. Like you're not supposed to do more than so many. Like it's a humanoid body, and like
that's so cool because like that's a big cop out that they have in Star Wars. Is we get in trouble, just jump to light speed. We can get away. And this is like we can
Star Trek
still
has
travel
something like that,
fast.
too.
But we can't escape out of convenience.
also the asteroid belt that was just what did
Like
they
the
call
quantum,
that? Yeah.
not even quantum. It was like
Was it?
there was some word that they used that just kind of. They just threw that word in there, and it was supposed to explain why asteroids would just disappear and appear randomly to make it seem higher stakes.
But the creativity that James Gunn has for this movie, like you said, is just like it's so cool. I don't know if it's just him specifically or his whole team, but like Ronan's ship is driven by these like monk-looking things laying on their back with like this power ball in their hands. Like everything is so unique and so well thought out, and just feels so tangible almost for a CGI movie. And even in the second one, from the moment it starts with that big monster fight, it's just so visually unique and just colorful, and just the palette is awesome. It's just, it doesn't feel like a mess of CGI like Ant-Man Quantumania kind of did. It's like done similar but better.
Well, a way that's interesting that you actually want to engage with, because there were definitely times like when we were on Ego's planet that I was looking at this and I was like, this is like the quantum realm, right? They just wanted to go kind of super over the top and extra with the CGI and just kind of make it look crazy. But I cared and I wanted to be there.
I don't know. I feel like it
Quantumania.
looked more interesting to me than like in the quantum realm, where it's just like, I don't know, you get to a point where you're just like, I'm just kind of looking at like,
There's just too much.
yeah, there's just too much going on. Whereas like I was actually really surprised by, especially for even the first one, I was like, man, the visual effects still hold up pretty well, especially for, I mean, this whole thing's in space, but somehow like it looks pretty believable where, with some stuff, like we mentioned, like, CGI doesn't look super great, or you just like the quantum realm, like it's just so weird and there's just so much of it that it's kind of like dulls it, and you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be like feeling.
Like, what am I supposed to be looking at and caring at or thinking is weird or something like that? I don't know.
Do you have something?
Yeah, I was going to say, so this is one that can kind of span across both, obviously, but we've talked about the chemistry of these characters, one of the things that makes us love these movies so much. We've talked about the villains, we talked about CGI, everything like that. Let's talk about one of the other things that really makes the Guardians of the Galaxy kind of stand out from everything else, the music and the soundtrack. Right. So obviously it's based in these, in the older music because it's what, Peter had when he came from Earth from and everything like that. And there's so many different musical moments we can touch on. I kind of want to, I guess, just kind of start that conversation because I'm sure there'll be more to talk about music wise with which opening sequence did you like more? So there's the one with Come and Get Your Love with Peter dancing before he goes to get the orb in the first one. And in the second one, Mr. Blue Sky while they fight like the rainbow octopus looking monster while Baby Groot dances.
For me, Peter Quill dancing, hands down. That's an iconic scene that they have referenced over and over again throughout the series, like jumped back to. What one was it recently?
Well, in Endgame they do.
Is it Endgame where they go back and you can actually hear him singing and it's like really bad?
Okay, so he's an idiot.
Yes, it's so good.
I'll be contrarian and say, I think I would probably agree with that, but I will say I really liked the one where they fight the giant monster, just because I was thinking like in another movie you would just be focused on like them fighting the monster, but instead you're focusing on Groot like dancing the whole time, and you're kind of seeing all the stuff happen in the background, which makes it more of a fun, like enjoyable, different fight than like just seeing them here they go, they're attacking it on the side. You're actually seeing Groot
like do all this stuff, then you see him like fly around, getting beat up by the monster. Like I thought that was just like super fun.
I thought it was clever that one talking about, by the way. I thought so. Really quickly, I have to say, this is like asking me to straddle something and choose a favorite child. Like, you're Solomon, you're like, take the child, cut it in two. It's harder than the Baby Groot, Baby Yoda question. It is for me. And here's why. It's because that first one was what, like, established Peter Quill for me. Kind of, like, had, like, because you kind of see him, like, doing his dance and stuff like that. And then he meets up with kind of, like, the people who, like, is like, they call me Starler, like, Star Moo, like, kind of like they're confused about the music. So, like, good call out on bringing up music. But in the second one, like, it's already established, and all they're doing is just kind of, like, building off the quirkiness of it, but through Baby Groot's lens. So, the first one is through Peter Quill's lens, and the second one is through Groot's, like, little Groot. And I'm going to go with, like, to be honest with you, I'm going to jump on your ship here and say the second one is better, but the first one is just what I think of if I think of Guardians of the Galaxy intro. Boom, that one.
The first one is definitely iconic, right? And it sets the tone for the movie and for the whole franchise in so many ways, right? Because it starts and you get to see his mother and all that stuff, and then he gets captured by aliens, and then it feels almost like kind of like a normal Marvel movie where you start and it's so dark, and he goes to this planet and he's like, oh, what was it looking like before? Where am I going? And it's literally not just like the feeling, but it's literally dark on this planet and raining and stuff like that. And then he gets in there, pops on the headphones, hits the Walkman, and then that title sequence comes up, and it just goes. It is iconic. I'm gonna go with the second.
No, I'll see you guys. The second one is just, yes, because we have all of these characters and they're doing an opening credit sequence, right? Where they're like showing different people who are dubbing who or whatnot, blah, blah, blah. And it is just so fun to see them doing what they do for work and see that even though it's serious, they take like what they do so like likely at the same time, like when Rocket's there before, right? And he keeps like, I'm setting this up so we can listen to dudes while we work. Yeah. And then yes, just going to beat it. But like you said, the tent is so important to Peter. And he's like, I do not agree with it. But, and then, you know, Groot puts it together. And yeah, I love that you have everything going on in the background. And you also have just like their cute little interactions that even though they're like literally the life or death situation, you know, Gamora's there. She's like, Groot, get out of the way. You're going to get killed. Hi. Hi. And it's like so cute. And it just establishes like, with the music, because I love that song. I've got Mr. Blue Sky Save on the title playlist and whatnot. It's so fun, so upbeat. And so I just love that you're just like watching that scene. And even though the action is there and it's cool or whatnot, you're just watching Baby Groot and he is adorable. Right? We've talked about that. Watching him dance while he's all the way on the background. And it just sets the tone perfectly for, all right, we're back. Like Guardians 2, it's here. Like super, super fun. I remember seeing that and it was like, oh, yes. But I don't want it to be like, yes, like we voted 3-1. It's so much better. Like it's the first one is obviously definitely iconic. Like you mentioned, they reference it back over and over again. These are two of the biggest like musical moments from the movies, but there's also definitely like, so much more. The movie's lean so much on that.
I even read that for certain scenes they gave the actors earpieces so that they could listen to the music cues while they were acting the scenes out. I don't know which specifically was, and this is IMDb trivia, so take it well, but that's one. Yeah, and I feel like that James Gunn wrote the songs in the script and planned on using those specific ones.
The music in these, and thank you for bringing that up, Josh. It's just it's significant to the success of the movie. I would say almost like, yeah, like think about this. Imagine this movie with a completely different soundtrack. It would feel kind of like you would still like the chemistry and whatnot of the characters, but then it would kind of just get like kind of very generic action.
Yeah.
When you're doing all that stuff. When they're fighting above the city and Cherry Bomb's playing and stuff, it just gives it that kind of upbeat vibe, even though they're fighting for that. It feels a little more light. When Ego and Peter are fighting and it's the Fleetwood Mac song, like it could be like a completely different kind of like tone and stuff if it was like a Man of Steel soundtrack or something, but it's like, you know, we're not dissing the Man of Steel. No, we're not. Hans Zimmer. I would never.
That actually brings me to my point that I was going to bring up a little while ago. Is at least it surprised me rewatching this how much killing and violence they can get away in this movie for a Marvel movie. Like, Quantumania is on my mind because it's the last Marvel movie I watched. But like, I feel like in every one of these movies lately, it's just been all these minions are like a faceless robot or a mindless alien, and like these heroes can't kill anyone, so they give them just like a throwaway type of thing that they just like can't fodder away. This movie does not do this. Like Yondu and Rocket straight up butcher the Ravagers. And they do that with the most happy, upbeat music. And I think that's why they can kind of get away with it. And this like any other movie, that would have been a very serious, like crazy, like look at how many people these so-called heroes are destroying, are killing. But it's doing this upbeat thing, and they're not quite heroes. They're kind of like in the gray area, so it's okay.
Just look at the comparison with what they did, right? When the Ravagers and Taserface and whatnot kind of took over the steps and whatever, it's this whole dramatic scene where they send one out into space and then they pan over and it's like, oh my gosh, they've killed like 15 of these people or whatever. It's so dramatic and sad because they've taken over. And then it's like Yondu and Rocket escape, and you're like, if you're thinking like, if you're mainly like the number of lives lost or whatever, okay, they killed some of them, and then, you know, Yondu and Rocket are next, so like another 2 or something like that. And then they just, with the happy song playing, and because they're the people that were following this movie, kill hundreds and hundreds of like the other people, and it's just like, yeah.
I had one last thing to throw out on the maturity of this movie that surprises me is like straight up when you go to the Ravagers' little hangout, it's a brothel, and the first shot of Yondu and zipping up his pants with his shirt off with a bunch of like here's in the back of on and they got away with this. And I'm just like, well,
There's that joke with the Ego, or where was it?
the penis joke?
Yeah, the pita joke. I was like, wow, I don't remember watching this like when I went to the movie theater and see I don't remember this whole conversation. So this isn't a theatrical release anymore. It's on Disney Plus. This is a James Gunn special. He just put in as much as he could. They're like, just do your thing.
That's what I love about these though. It's like I feel like he actually had control. This is before the machine absorbed these directors. You know, these both are James Gunn movies, and you can feel it, you can see it. Like he just got away with so much. I'm crossing my fingers that Guardians 3, he's able to do the same thing. And I hope so.
I agree. Well, I have some questions for you guys, all three of you. So, who is your favorite character in the Guardians of the Galaxy?
Peter Quill.
Why?
I just think he's funny. I love Chris Pratt. I think he's childish but lovable. He's stupid but not.
No, he's not stupid when he needs to be.
Yeah, it's stupid but to think like.
He's very funny and slapsticky, but like
he's also just very immature at the same time.
But he's good at what he does. It's not like he's just like this buffoon kind of person.
That I kind of like that too.
Yeah, like the good mix of like serious but funny and like not too serious. I don't know.
But if I could like choose, like find a loophole or whatever, like Peter and Rocket together are my favorite. It has to,
I like them a little bit.
Yeah, their relationship, their interactions, the way they talk to each other, the way that they really love each other. But I don't see as much in these movies. But again, let me reference that podcast. Like they love each other, but they're both like, the way that they show it is very like by making fun of each other and by being like jerks to each other. But in the end, they're just like connected and love.
A little bit of that in the second movie, especially like at the beginning with the whole like battery stuff. But yeah, I would say probably Rocket Raccoon, just because he's so like outside of Peter Quill, I feel like he's like he has the most like interesting, and we're obviously gonna get ton of his backstory in the new movie because I think that's kind of what they're all betting on there. But just like how kind of layered he is and how, I don't know, like it's so interesting, especially just seeing how he interacts with everyone and kind of, you know, even when something that I thought was interesting, because I always forget, like, oh yeah, when Groot dies in the first movie, it's a new Groot in the second movie. So he's kind of like takes on a little bit of like the parenting role there. And like this, him being Rocket, you know, it's like a very kind of coarse parent, very weird parenting type thing. And I don't know, I think he's awesome. And also, he's also in the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. I don't know if you guys ever done the one at Disneyland. It is fantastic. He's like he's in like the main queue for when you get into the ride and stuff. Like he like talks directly to the audience and stuff, and kind of is like the main like antagonist for like the plan. Basically all the Guardians are like caught in the collector's thing, and Rocket it breaks through and does the stuff and gets like the music going and stuff. He's just a very fun character.
Well, I think those two is like kind of the ones that I was juggling between in my mind, because Star-Lord, obviously he really just does. It was the role I think that like Chris Pratt really is like meant to play in the MCU and kind of just in general, honestly. Like Chris Pratt, he just does this like hilarious, somewhat dumb, but smart when he needs to kind of character who has that depth and emotionality, but is really also kind of superhero-y. And I love it. And then Rocket, you guys already said pretty much everything. The only thing I wanted to add is just Bradley Cooper really just takes it to the next level, right? And it's so funny that they do the voice acting and stuff, but then they also kind of use the facial kind of sensors and whatever to kind of help with the animation from what he does, because he is such a hilarious actor, both with his voice and also visually and facially, bodily, expressively. Expect like physically, he's like a good physical actor as well, and I'm glad that they can also use that for a character that's basically all CGI, because he is so funny, and I feel like it's all just cat perfect. Like we love Drax, and I do love, like I don't think I'd put her up there as like my favorite character, but I feel like the addition of Mantis is also just perfect into Guardians in the second one. She had the fitting right in. She has a nice new dynamic that's able to go on with the characters. It's perfect, because it could have been, I feel like that could have been really bad. Like you had something that works and try to get like another character in there. It can be like kind of sketchy. It's great.
Have you seen the videos of where Bradley Cooper is acting out and like already speaking? Those are probably some of my favorite behind the scenes of like an anime character. I think they're a ton of fun. All right, my final question is, what is your favorite?
Yeah. So now, Groot.
Stop! It is Groot. Groot is my favorite. It's just
I wasn't asking.
that's why I said stop. Sorry. No. I know that you do though, because you know me so well when it comes to these things. Because I just like the simplicity of him. Like he's nothing too flashy, and like the comedic value of Groot is great because he's not like. And I know that we've talked a lot about like Drax, right? How stupid his comedy is, but like literally, like he's so like literal of the thing. Go do this. Go try and figure this out. And if he doesn't fully understand, like it's funny. And then the second one when he's baby Groot, he's like, I need you to go get me that bit, and he brings back a thumb. He does all these things. I don't know. The longer we get to see Groot grow into this new thing, I didn't know that he was a completely new Groot, by the way. So very cool fact. But yeah, no, my favorite. And then I honestly would also add in that I really liked Gamora as a whole. Like I thought the Gamora thing, like especially when you realize in the second movie when Gamora and Nebula are fighting down inside of Ego, and she's like, I was a child too. Like this is something like you don't realize that you're plagued by fear in that way, and it's very cool, like the depth of those two, and I think that's why people like him as a character.
She plays a great straight man for Peter Quill too.
Yeah.
Like whenever he's dropping these references and she's like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't understand what cheers is.
Yeah. And people was talking about David Hasselhoff a little bit. Oh man, that's so fun in it.
We're just like Kevin Bacon.
She's like fried literally.
Here, that's what I know. Crazy how much I buy into their relationship.
Oh yeah.
In like you don't even see it. Well, no, I guess it is the second one that it really evolves and they open up to each other. But from the get-go in the second one, like I guess I guess it establishes in the first one too, and they have their pelvic sorcery moments. Like I buy into this too. Again, going back to your chemistry thing, like it's always Saldana and Chris Pratt have chemistry together.
Yeah, the whole just some unspoken thing joke, and then it kind of ends up being more serious that runs throughout the whole second movie is just one of those things, right? And it could be like so like cheesy, and it is kind of cheesy or whatever, but it's like it just really works for them, and it really makes you feel it. And the different ways that they use it, from going from it to being a joke to more serious, it's the end of the movie. They do really play well off of each other, and which is why I kind of root so hard for the third one, for it all to be did out. Now do you have different universe Gamora is back and doesn't really know him, and you like want it back, right? You're missing that and stuff like that. Is the MCU doing it too much? You got Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana, Star-Lord and Gamora, and then you've got Spider-Man and maybe it's all
So I never thought about that.
but it's like basically the same.
It lives in their memory.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But it's because it's interesting, right? Like, oh no, would the person that you fell in love with still fall in love with you again? Like something like that.
Like if it wasn't done so well, it could definitely feel very like
Just like chew copy paste. Yeah. So
I like that. Also, really quickly, I want to talk about Nebula really quick, and it's something we haven't podcasted about in Spaceport, but Karen Gillan, I think is her name. Gillan. She actually shaved her head for the role of Nebula, which I think is hilarious. And then, according to the IMDb, Marvel Studios subsequently turned her shaved hair into a wig and presented to her as a gift, which she still keeps to this day. Okay, my final question would be, right, the collector. We're introduced to the collector. We haven't really talked about the collector very much in this. But if you recall what you saw within the collector's kind of collection, is there anything or anyone you saw in there that like was like a standout to you that you remember from the first time you saw it, or that you've seen it since we watched it and you're like, oh, that was really cool?
Well, since we watched it, there's Cosmo, right? The talent that's a gift that was in the holiday special, and then it's also going to be a pretty big part of the third one. Was like a cool, like originally just like an Easter egg sort of thing.
the Cosmos of the ride too, where he's in the queue for the Guardians ride at Disneyland. It's kind of cool. We get like winks and stuff, and looks like a real dog.
What about you, Vince?
Howard the Duck, man. Howard the freaking Duck was it. This is what makes me the saddest about James Gunn going to DC. I want James Gunn to do a Howard the Duck. Or even like do the, how they're doing the holiday special and what is it, Murder by Night or Werewolf by Night, those like special 1 hour Disney Plus things. I would love for him to do a Howard the Duck 1 hour special of just, I don't know what the story would be. Let him run. Let him do his thing. Crass, drunk, duck, whipping around.
like a murder mystery, like noir movie. Oh, I would love that. Yeah, Howard the Duck, my favorite in there.
Nice. What about you? I really should have looked more closely. The only one that really stuck out to me was like when his assistant, I don't remember her name, but she was like standing right in front of like his former assistant, and then on the other side was like the dark elf from that the one movie that nobody really likes, but I thought was okay.
I love Thor: The Dark World. Okay, I was banned by that film, so that's cool. No problem.
And I thought it was funny, like, can you imagine this being like a dark elf and you're just like stuck in this tube thing for whatever eternity?
Yeah, man. I really like the collector's stuff. All the things you guys talked about. I love the dog. Love Howard the Duck. I did notice the dark elf as well. I don't really have a favorite. I just like the collector as a whole, and I love the actor who plays the collector. I think he does so well with it, and I wish, honestly, I know that we see him in a second. I think we see him in something else. Something. What's the other one we see him in? He's in
Infinity War, but it's like a projection of him or something, like kind of like a Thanos thing. But
yeah, there's something about him again where we see him, but I really want to see more of him. That's all I want to say.
Do his little hand,
the little hand thing,
or he sees the Infinity Stone and he gets all excited. They all come.
I'd have him. No, I don't know, but like I just really like the character as a whole. I would love just an event to go in there and go check stuff out. Like I want to wander into the wrong place and just wander around that, because it's like when you go antiquing, but antiquing for some really weird stuff. But anyhow, I don't have anything else to talk about really. I'm sad that James Gunn is leaving the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think that honestly that's a loss for Marvel and a gain for DC, to be honest with you. But any closing remarks on these films and your desired outcome for the third movie? I'm going to start with Vince.
I guess just ratings. IMDb gave the first one an 8 and the second one a 7.6. Audience gave it a Guardians 1. Critics and audience gave it 92%. Liked it. Letterboxd gave it a 3.8. Guardians 2. Critics and audience gave it about 85 and 87. Letterboxd gave it a 3.5. I think that those are low for the Letterboxd scores personally.
I imagine if they watched it today, like volume 2 now, like they're probably giving like a higher scores, because I feel like a lot of them are dated now, watching them now.
For me, as far as like final thoughts and then going into the third one, definitely interested to see how much of a role the Sovereign play in the next one, because obviously you have that post-credit scene or whatever where she's like, oh, Elizabeth Debicki, who I love, by the way. Now she's like, oh, Paul and Adam Warlock probably done be a big part of the next movie and whatnot. I'm just interested to see if it'll be just kind of like him, or because she just kind of has this eternal grudge where she's been trying to kill him for forever now because Braga's total batteries, and just it's evolved from that. And so I'm interested to see, because I looked up, and it could have just been because it was just on Google, right? It wasn't like an official cast list, but I looked up and I think I saw that it said Elizabeth Debicki was still in the third one.
Yeah, it seems like they're hinting at least like there's going to be some sort of connection there, because from what Jameson said is like Adam Warlock's basically going to be not like an infant or something, but he's like basically like a pretty new to the world and kind of like learning stuff. So I imagine the Sovereign's probably going to be in it. I don't know how much long, but
so I'm interested to see that. I'm mostly just excited for the third one, but I also can get overhyped by trailers a lot. But just that music, that song has just been in my head ever since that trailer dropped. Just, I'm excited, and I really just hope that it's excellent. I really just hope they kind of, because it seems like even though it's still in phase whenever of the MCU, it seems like they kind of just said, okay, Guardians is still part of this, but James Gunn, you've done good. People like your movies. I just hope they gave him, even though we are in kind of like a locked thing for the directors, like we got to follow certain whatevers, I really hope they kind of just gave him the keys and gave him more leeway than they probably would other directors. Guardians is bad. You're shocked.
True. I feel like, yeah, because really, like this and the Marvels, there's not a lot of, I don't see, people seem pretty excited about Secret Invasion, so maybe, that could help win people over, but I do feel like everyone's kind of a little bit underwhelmed by like Ant-Man and all that stuff
for me, like, especially watching these movies, like, I forgot how much just, like, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy just in general, and how, like, and I even just did the event, like, Infinity War and stuff, like, a lot of my favorite parts were with them and with, where they, like, hanging on the Spider-Man Doctor Strange and stuff. So I'm super excited just to see how it ends, because it definitely feels like they're marketing it as, like, the end of this, and, like, James Gunn's even on, which there's few directors I feel like on Twitter, you're like, okay, you're probably just going to hype up your movie because you think it's good, but I feel like for the most part, with the way that James Gunn has talked about this movie and talked about even like DC movies, like I kind of trust his view on it, and he feels like really strong about this movie. So I would probably trust James Gunn. Like if he thinks that it's going to be like a really good ending for the Guardians and for the characters, like I'd put my faith in that. Obviously not overhyping it, because, no matter what, if you overhype anything, like, it's not going to live up to what you want. I concur. I got nothing more to say, really. I think that the first two movies are some of my favorite Marvel films, and I love that James Gunn is going out with a trilogy, and it's not going to be too extended. I feel like a lot of directors, they will live off of that clout, but we can ride this wave. Maybe he had planned to do more movies, I don't know, but doing it as a trilogy with the original director, overall the original cast, I think is a smart move, and I'm excited to see what this movie does. I am hyped, and I want to see Rocket the Raccoon's backstory, so that's it for me. Anything else you guys want to bring up, or should we bring this chapter to a close?
No, just thanks to anyone if you made it this far. That's a real dedication, and we really appreciate you listening to the podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere else. We really appreciate it. And if you could turn YouTube, give the video a like. It just helps us, we're getting close to that 500. Yeah, exactly. But we're 69 build subscribers, and we're just having fun doing it. It's always been about fun first before everything, but we do really enjoy that we're kind of, growing a little bit. And so we appreciate anyone who takes the time, whether you don't really know us or whether you're family and friends. Just wanted to give you guys a shout out and say, truly, thank you.
Yeah, and hit us up in the comments if there's a movie you guys want us to talk about.
Yes.
So that'd be fun.
Or if you want to be here on the podcast with us, like we have, you saw Michael on our last podcast. We got Tyler here. We love having people come be on the podcast because it gives us new points of view, and people, you can kind of be like a subject matter expert. I'll call you that.
Like, it's crazy to me, like, to be honest with you, that and I've talked about this before a little bit, that we just started this podcast kind of on a whim. We just wanted to do it. Went and saw Brightburn as our first movie, and now here we are years later, just like still having fun, still getting together, having guests on. So really, thank you for coming, thank you for participating. Vince, thank you again for setting up the studio and doing all this. Like, it's amazing. And Josh, thank you as always for your insider knowledge on everything and your just point of view. I appreciate it. And I want to thank me for just being here. That's great. I'm happy to be here. But anyhow, guys, once again, thank you so much for the 469 of you subscribed to our YouTube channel. Thank you. If you're listening to us anywhere else, thank you. I give you 2 thumbs up. And in conclusion, thank you for joining us at the Pleasure of Play podcast. We'll catch you again next time.